Hi, everybody. This is Horsepower Heritage. I'm Maurice Merrick. Thanks for joining me once again, and this time I've got a little bit of a different show for you because I just returned from a week of four-wheeling in Baja, California in mostly vintage rigs, and this episode was recorded entirely on the trail or in camp along the way, and we were hopscotching all over the peninsula. Every day was a different destination, and you'll get the full explanation when we get into it, but these are conversations with just some of the great people that were there with me, and I hope you really get a feel for how much fun we had. Also, different subject, I want to mention that recently I was a guest on another podcast called Only the Strong Survive, which is hosted by my pal Dan Kahn of Kahn Media, and we had a great conversation, so I think you'll enjoy that one. It's a look behind the scenes of Horsepower Heritage, and we recorded that one during Monterey Car Week, so there's plenty of car talk in there as well. So check that out. There's a link in the show notes. And if you enjoy Horsepower Heritage, support the show with a donation at buymeacoffee.com/HP Heritage. And thank you to everyone who's become a patron of the show. Really appreciate it. All right. Picture, if you will, endless sandy trails and cacti and little taco stands in the middle of nowhere and waves crashing on an empty beach. Here we go down to Baja. Enjoy. Hey guys, Maurice here, and I am coming to you from central Baja, California, Mexico. We're out in the desert. I'm sitting on a big rock in basically a cactus forest with boulders all around us. And this is going to be sort of a highly experimental episode because right now I'm on the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition. And if you've been listening to the show recently, you'll know that I was promoting this trip for my pal Michael Emery for the last few months. And of course, Horsepower Heritage is about vintage for the most part, right? You guys know that. So how can I resist coming down here, right? And we've got a great selection of vintage rigs and a few modern ones here. But we're on, I think, day 3, day 4. I don't know. I've kind of lost count, which is sort of the point when you're down here. You just kind of want to get away from reality. You want to get away from the hustle and bustle world and slow down. And that's Michael's ethos, keep Baja slow. So, of course, he's been on the show before, and I've been on his show, Slow Baja, and you got to check that podcast out if you haven't heard it yet. But this is my second time down here, and I've been, four-wheeling and camping for many years, but this is a different experience because it's a mix of rigs. Normally I'm with a bunch of Land Rover people because, that's what I was into for so long, but we've got Jeeps here, we've got Toyotas, vintage Broncos, including, I think, 2 original Bill Strop Baja Broncos, of which they made something like 400. So it's been great, and you can probably hear some people laughing in the background. We just started the campfire. Michael hires this amazing team of locals that come out and cook dinner for us. So it's just going to be a great celebration tonight, and we've come a long way already. We started the trip in Tijuana, crossed the line, down to Rosarito, and then hook a left inland to the Guadalupe Valley, which is the wine country of Baja, and then to a ranch called RANCHO La BELLOTA, run by this fantastic guy named Raul. And he's been running this dude ranch for, I think, 29 years now. It's down in a little bowl, oak trees all around. He's built all of the structures there, the main house and all the casitas, as traditional Mexican architecture. So it's just beautiful. Took some horseback rides, wonderful food there, and it was just a great first night. And then on day 2, we left Raul's Rancho La Bellota and made our way to Rancho La Concepcion, which is up in the mountains, in the Sierra. And you don't think of Baja, California as having tall mountains, but in fact, we camped in the pines at a 4,700-foot elevation. It snows there in the winter, and Rancho La Concepcion has been in operation for over 100 years now. There are apple trees there that are 100 years old. The wonderful couple that runs the place are great hosts, and again, they feed us very well. Great campfire, some tequila and beer. And then day 3 of the expedition takes us to Terra Peninsular, which is on the Pacific coast. We had a couple snags along the way. Having a big group, 20 vehicles, you inevitably get stretched out, and everything you do during the day takes a little bit longer, whether it's gas stops or lunch or airing down tires or what have you. So as a result, we hadn't gotten to camp before the sun set. And the group got a little bit separated. There was some delay there. But eventually we made our way down to the beach. We didn't make camp until after dark. But once we were there, Michael had dinner ready for us. The locals that he had hired for that one had oysters on the half shell and ceviche and fresh fish tacos. So that was pretty nice to arrive knowing that dinner was ready for us. All we had to do was set up our tents and so forth. And then this morning we departed Terra Peninsula for the camping spot I'm in right now, which is near a place called Catavina. Elana Scherr is here from Car and Driver magazine. She's doing a feature story on it. We have a full still photography and video crew capturing all of this, and I will have my own YouTube video on the trip too coming up, so watch for that on the YouTube channel. Now we have a couple more nights on this trip, and then it's back to California. And I'm just kind of catching conversations as we go over the next few nights. This is actually the first opportunity I've had to record because we've been so busy, and we've been making camp late. But I want to dedicate this episode of Horsepower Heritage to my pal Michael Emery. Michael, thank you for making me a part of this amazing experience. All right, guys, I'm here with Elana Scherr from Car and Driver. So this is your first Slow Baja. What do you think?
This is such a pleasure. It is my first slow Baja, but I've done many fast Bajas. The slow part is what is making this so special.
So you're in this Ineos Grenadier Quartermaster, which it's too easy.
I mean, you guys are working hard, yeah. Because even in the Ineos, I'm having to pay attention. We are off-road driving, and it's not, it's not something that you can do on autopilot, even in a modern car. But we are definitely suffering the physical effects of the landscape less than the folks who are in the classic vehicles.
Yeah, your kidneys are okay. You're not rattling around like we are, but and it's just very sure-footed and it's totally predictable. But it is a vintage tour, but it's nice to see how far we've come.
Well, I'm really excited to see that. First of all, how welcoming everyone's been to me bringing a modern vehicle here. I didn't want to ruin the vibe, but I think part of why everyone likes the Ineos is because it very much has a vintage vibe, even though it is a modern truck. It doesn't look out of place in the lineup. It looks very similar to, the Land Rover that's here, the Defender. It doesn't stick out, I don't think, other than being bright red.
Right, and Sir Jim Radcliffe, who started Ineos, is a huge Land Rover nut. That was kind of the impetus behind the creation of the vehicle in the first place. Because I think he wanted to continue producing the classic Defender, and Land Rover said, we don't think so. And so he went ahead and did his own thing. Yeah,
I think it's one of those great classic automotive spite stories, Ford going to Le Mans because Ferrari wouldn't sell him Ferrari. I think Jim was interested in keeping the classic Defender going, and when Land Rover said no, he said, fine, I'll make a better one.
Yeah. Well, it is a terrific vehicle. I like the way they look, and they do have, they're all about the angles rather than the melted stick of butter. So I dig it.
Yeah, I'm really charmed by it. Honestly, I didn't come down here prepared to like it this much. I was sort of thinking about ways that I would explain it if it couldn't do well, or if people didn't enjoy it, or if I didn't like it. And so far, my complaints about it are very small, very tiny little quibbles.
Yeah. Okay, so you're doing a feature story for Car and Driver. And I'm just curious how, in your mind right now, you're thinking about approaching it, because there's a lot of interesting people on this trip. People do not sign up for this trip unless they're actually really game and great people. There's a sort of a filter effect that Michael's trips seem to have, where you just get a great group of people.
Yeah, it's a really nice safari. It's anyone who's willing to do this, first of all, anyone who comes down to Baja and isn't staying in like a Cabo hotel is already one click above your average vacationer.
Agree.
Because it's always a little challenging. It's still a wilderness. It's definitely gotten civilized, even in the time since I first came down here. But it is still, it's still got an outback feel to it.
Yeah.
And you need to be willing to roll with the punches, to be flexible, to change your plans and not throw a fit about it. And so everyone on this trip is patient and supportive, sort of gently competent.
Right. And you do have to be able to handle yourself. And that whole idea is what we love about it, right?
Yeah. So Michael and I had been online friends for quite a long time. I knew about Slow Baja back when it was connected to the Nora race down here. And he was always saying, you should come down. You should come down. And I was like, I would love to, but I can't. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. There's a lot of stuff that happens during the year that overlaps. This year, it finally matched up. So it is my first time coming down with Michael. In fact, I only met him face-to-face, IRL, as the kids say. I don't think the kids say that anymore. I only met him face-to-face earlier this year at Monterey Car Week.
Yeah, and we should also say that Sal Fish is with us. Now, Sal Fish is a Baja legend, a Nora legend. He and Mickey Thompson were partners in the Baja 1000 from the very first. So he's with us, and it's his 50th anniversary of the first Baja 1000. So that's pretty special. And you and I have both gotten a chance to get to know Sal. What a guy.
I love Sal so much. He is such an example of how you can be successful and also a kind and generous person. I've never really met anybody who had a bad thing to say about him, and I can understand why. I've never seen him do a cruel thing.
Right, and you've had more time with Sal this week than anyone else because he's riding along in the Grenadier.
He's my co-driver. It's great everywhere that we've been going. We're just driving along, and it's like, I don't know, Berry Farms or something. And he'll be like, well, when I first came down here in 1968, my first professional time down here, because I used to come with my parents when I was a kid in the 50s. But, this was all dirt, and this road was actually 2 miles that way, and there was a marble mine there, and there was a lady there, Esmeralda, and she would make the best burritos.
And Sal's in his 80s, and he's sharp as a tack and great memory. Today he was on the trail, was telling us about a section of the trail right before our camp, which is, as I said earlier, boulders everywhere in a cactus forest, but it had been at one time part of the Baja 1000 course. And we got to talk to Sal a little bit about the 1000, but he was sharing stories with us about this part of the course, and then we were talking about the Jesuits and the Franciscans and how that was once the El Camino Real, the King's Road from Mexico into California. So fascinating stuff. Lots of history here. I bet, Elana, if we explored enough, we would find some ancient rock art in these boulders.
There is a lot of cave painting actually down here in Baja.
Well, anything else to say about your feature when it's coming out?
It's probably not the next issue, but the one after that. So in magazine terms, that'll be a 2026 issue, but you should all have your subscriptions renewed so that you don't miss it.
All right, sounds good, and I'm really looking forward to it. Guys, Elana Scherr from Car and Driver magazine, and you can follow her on Instagram at Challenge Her, right?
That is right.
Because you're a Mopar gal.
I definitely started as a Mopar gal, and that was when that Instagram account was made. And I do still have a Challenger. I'm restoring it right now, but I've expanded. I've got a lot of things now, a lot of interests.
What's the current car count?
17.
17. All right, you got me beat by a mile. Elana Scherr, thank you.
This was really fun.
So, guys, I'm here with Mark Jukes. He's a fireman in Amador County, California, which is a rural area. And Mark, you brought your Jeep FC170 forward control, a 1961, right?
That's right.
And these are really odd and cool. And when I say odd, it's just, people don't think of Jeeps being this configuration.
No, and really there was nothing else in this configuration when they came out. Ford, Chevy, and Dodge all came out with their cab forward designs after this got discontinued by Jeep. So it was kind of standalone in that configuration with the cab ahead of the powertrain.
And these trucks, of course, were primarily geared towards the commercial market, government, loggers.
Yeah, industrial. A lot of them actually got turned into manufacturing plant fire apparatus because they were small and could fit inside the factories.
Right.
So there's a few of those surviving. The Postal Service used them for going around and fixing mailboxes. So they had a stake side version, and they would, the big blue mailboxes that you see on the side of the street, they would load up the new ones and go out and replace the old ones. So you'll see postal versions. A lot of them got used for snow plows because the visibility is excellent for that.
Sure.
They were a work truck.
Flat front, engine right between the seats, and a crazy linkage, right? Shift linkage?
Yes, there's shift linkage all over underneath. Each shifter runs about 4 feet back to the actual point of shifting. So it's not exactly the crisp shift you might be used to with a top loader 4-speed bolt action transmission. It's a little more shift by wire, if you will.
Right. And they came in two wheelbases, 150 and 170.
Correct. The 150s came out first, and they were actually so short and nose heavy that they had to put a counterweight behind the rear axle, about, I think, 250 pounds, because if you were going down a steep hill and hit the brakes hard, you would endo over the front.
Oh, man.
And, they had very short bed. I think it's 5 feet. And
right.
Those ones seem to be a little bit more sought after because they're just kind of... And those had two different track widths as well. The very first ones shared the same axles as a CJ5, and they were called narrow tracks. And they just look awkward as heck because the wheels are so close together and inset compared to the big cab.
I was just commenting today when we were driving behind you that you have a nice wide track on this thing. It's very unlike early Land Rovers,
Correct.
which have a very narrow
the
track.
track width is actually the same as the later J series trucks. They share the same track width, so a nice stable platform to wheel with.
Right. And so you think that your particular truck was a highway truck?
Highway truck,
service
possibly
truck.
a fire truck. It was in government service of some sort. It's got the chevrons on the back bumper. It had a light mounted to the center of the roof. It had a spotlight, and it had brackets for water coolers and fire extinguishers. So. And it's just yellow. Who else orders a yellow truck besides probably the highway department? So,
and the exterior of the truck's been repainted, so it's kind of a pale yellow. But the cab inside is a signal yellow.
Signal yellow originally, yes, and now it's I think probably the owner previous to the guy I got it from painted it the more pale yellow that we see now, which I think it's a nicer color overall. I do have another CJ5 that's the signal yellow though, so
right.
Part of me wouldn't mind having them match, so we'll see about that someday.
And in case anyone wondered if you really are a Jeep guy, this isn't the only vehicle you brought.
Correct.
So your brother-in-law is driving your J2000 Gladiator.
Correct, a 1966.
Yeah. And that was based off the military M715?
Other way around.
Oh, okay. Other way around.
The military came asking for bidders to create the next great military truck, and the Jeep used their civilian truck platform. Yeah, the J Series pickups came out in '63. The M715s were, I think, 67, 68, 69, somewhere right in that area.
So what's under the hood in the Gladiator? I know that the FC 170 has a flathead straight six.
Flathead straight six. That's a Willys Super Hurricane, 226 cubic inches, 110 horsepower if you're lucky, going downhill. But the Gladiator has a 1987 AMC 360 V8.
Okay.
That came out of my first Jeep, which was a Wagoneer, and that got rolled on black ice, unfortunately. So its motor lives on.
Well, I was riding in the back of the Gladiator on the way up the mountain to Rancho La Concepcion. I jumped in the bed to get some video, and your brother-in-law and his buddy had the bed packed just right, so their gearboxes were up against the bulkhead, and I was able to wedge between those and then brace my feet against the tailgate and get some awesome video. But that experience was great because that engine has a lot of punch. We just got up that hill so easily.
Yeah, it's of the two trucks, it makes the most sense down here in Baja. But the Minion gets so many smiles and waves from the locals. They love seeing it. It's just something most of them probably have never seen one. If they know what it is,
right.
A lot of them probably have no idea what it is. They just think it's different.
And you call it the Minion for obvious reasons, but I'll just, in case people haven't seen an FC, it looks like the face of the Minions from the movie. And
he's the right color, so the name was just a natural fit. He was going to be the Minion. When I brought him home, my wife's first reaction is, well, that's a face only a mother could love. And thankfully, she has actually grown to love him. It's one of her favorite Jeeps to look at now. He has permission to sit in the driveway out front of the kitchen window anytime.
But you told me you garaged this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's
just because it's a truck doesn't mean it doesn't deserve a little shelter.
Yeah, my goal is to just arrest the decay on these. Maintain the patina. Only upgrade what makes operational sense to upgrade. For example, the rear axle in the Minion was severely worn and was an obsolete model, a Dana 53. Can't get parts for it, so I sourced a Dana 60 semi-float, which is the same one that the Gladiator has. So they both have the same rear axle now. From the exterior, you can't really tell unless you really know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep the spirit of the trucks alive. I just put a new motor in the Minion. And instead of sourcing, an LS or something else, I decided I'd stick with the original, rebuild a 226, put it back in there, and keep the truck as close to original function and form as possible.
Well, you did a good job, obviously, because it's been going great. You had a little bit of a fuel filtration issue, but other than that, it's been fine, trouble free.
Yeah, it's very nice. Last year when I was down here with this truck, with the old motor, I was going through, I believe, 2 quarts of oil a day. Most of that was getting past the valve guides.
Yeah.
And so it was creating a smoke show behind me. And I think I was going through probably a gallon of coolant at least a day because there was a block crack that it was fine if you're just, doing chores around the yard. It would never heat up. But once you got out on the highway and got that block really warm, that crack would open up, and if you pushed it too hard, you'd lose all the coolant real quick.
Your daughter Maisie came with you.
Yes.
How old is Maisie?
Maisie's 17 now. She's working on getting her driver's license, and so I wanted to bring her last time because it was the last trip for those who don't follow this. Last trip that I was on was a bunch of high school students, my friends that are auto shop teacher, and he got a bunch of postal Jeeps together, and they fixed them up and painted them and brought them down. So I thought Maisie would have appreciated hanging out with his students, but we couldn't get her passport in time.
Oh.
Because I got told about the trip on short notice, and it just didn't work out. So I told her she'd get to go on the next one. So she's been riding shotgun. She drove a little bit. She's enjoying it.
Terrific. Yeah, she seems like she's having a great time. And in fact, yesterday we made a quick stop at a place called Baja Animal Outreach, and it's a dog rescue. And Maisie came away with a puppy.
She did. If you look at my yard at how many Jeeps I've got, I'm just as bad with dogs. I've got no impulse control. If I see a dog that needs me and I can help it, I'm gonna do that. And so we have 2 other dogs at home. They're both rescues, and we hung out in there long enough to kind of get a read on the dogs, and she had a good disposition, and I think she's going to be a really good fit for our little pack at home.
Yeah, and she's got some interesting markings, and on her chest she's got a white patch that is sort of shaped like a heart, so you guys named her Corazon. Yeah, perfect.
And she's settled in right behind the passenger seat. Michael Emery, who's leading the trip out, had a spare little dog carrier for his dog that he rescued recently. So she crawls into that and sticks her head out and just enjoys the view and takes naps as we go.
Perfect. Yeah, she's settling in. By the way, Mark, what are your thoughts on Slow Baja and Baja in general?
I've always dreamed of coming down to Baja. I've watched the races as a kid and saw the beautiful trucks and cars that they build to race down here. I got involved in some off-road racing with my cousin. He had a Ultra 4 4600 class car that he ran in the Everman Challenge at King of the Hammers, and did some other racing up in California. And I was fortunate enough to help him work on that car and be on his pit crew. And so when I heard about the opportunity to come down to Baja and actually run parts of the trails and roads that they run in that race, I jumped at the opportunity. And Michael does a really good job of putting the trip together in a fairly logical way. You get to see a lot of good country, and the best part is the people we're meeting down here. We have just met some incredible people. They're so hospitable. Everyone asks me when they hear I'm going to Baja, aren't you scared? Aren't you worried about,
crime
or being abducted or being roughed up? And no, I'm not really. Not at all. It's very, very different than it's made out to be.
Well, one of the things that's key is that Michael's got all sorts of people, locals on the ground that
Correct.
They're part of his team.
He has a vast network, and that he proved that on the last trip. As I mentioned, high school kids, postal jeeps, so you can imagine some things didn't go according to plan, right? There was breakdowns, there was stop to cool down radiators, things like that. And so there was one day where we were doing a pretty long run through the backcountry, and we were not going to make it to our planned campsite. And so we stopped at a taco stand, and within 5 minutes, Michael had found a winery that was open to us to use their parking lot and their bathrooms to camp for the night. 20-minute drive, and we had a camp spot closer than we needed. So he's got the connections on the ground. So I'm not worried as long as I'm following his Jeep or the Jeep that's behind him or the Toyota, whatever it may be. I'm good with it.
Yeah, and it all works out. And we should mention you're actually part of the team because you're the medic for the week.
Correct. So thankfully, the worst I've had to do is treat a little splinter in someone's foot, and hopefully we keep it that way. But yeah, Michael invited me to come back down on this trip because he was looking for some medical support, and he appreciated my adaptability to conditions last time, I guess you could say.
Yeah. You definitely have to roll with it here and kind of not necessarily have expectations. It is a very safe, organized trip. So, yeah, hats off to Michael.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really appreciate, when I go camping at home with my family, I'm figuring everything out. I've got to kind of call all the shots. Like I said, here, I focus on the bumper in front of me, and Michael gets us where we need to go. And he's got very talented sweeps bringing up the rear that make sure nobody gets left behind. And if there's any kind of mechanical issues, we had a hole in a radiator at the gas station today, and I think 20-30 minutes it was apart, patched, and back together.
Well, yeah,
really impressive.
Because we had a bunch of mechanics. There are several guys here who run restoration shops of their own. Of course, we got Curt LeDuc, who was an ace mechanic for many years here in Baja on the 1000, and the guy whose truck broke down, he knew what he was doing too. So that was a good team effort to watch. Well, Mark, thanks for sitting down with me. This was fun. I love your Jeeps, and it's great to meet you and Maisie.
Happy to be here. I'm glad you appreciate them as well. That's part of the reason I'm doing this is I do keep them in my garage, but that really only does me good to look at them. I like to get them out where other people can see them and appreciate them and kind of see where we came from, how we got to where we are in four-wheel and off-road and what the heritage of this sport is.
Thanks, Mark.
No problem.
Johnny Feld from FIELDVAN, and so you and your dad build these amazing plushy rigs, 4x4s built on a Ford Econoline chassis, a lovely place for Sal Fish to call home on the trip. But
yes,
you're one of the few trucks that aren't vintage, but that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah,
correct.
So we're sitting in it right now. You got a pop top. There's a full-size bed up.
Yeah, it's like a queenish double.
Okay.
But, yeah, big enough for 2 adults.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And beautiful interior, sink, cabinets, couch. I mean...
Yeah, you're sitting on the potty.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
I don't need it right now. But
you got the fridge next to you. Yeah, it's got a furnace, on-demand water heater, shower out the back. You know, everything that a motorhome would have, but in a super capable off-road 4-wheel drive.
Right. What's under the hood? Diesel, obviously.
No.
No?
This one's got a gas. It's got the 7.3-liter Godzilla V8, baby.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So you can really whomp on it. It gets up and goes.
It's got so much power.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So what's the story behind FIELDVAN? Your dad started the company?
So my dad started, we used to be called Sportsmobile West, and he started in 1989. Sportsmobile has been kind of the OG brand of van campers since 1961. And we got involved, well, my mom and dad brought it out west. They had a place in Austin, Texas. And then in 89, he started building them out west here for the California folk. And we rebranded about 5 years ago. We kind of outgrew the Sportsmobile brand. We were doing a lot of all of the marketing, branding, R&D. And so we split from the parent brand and created our own brand called FIELDVAN.
And Sportsmobile, if I'm correct, kind of always gravitated toward Ford chassis.
Yeah, they started actually with the Volkswagens back in the 60s. They did the original Volkswagen pop-top camper.
Before Volkswagen produced the Westphalia.
Correct.
Okay.
And you notice something about the Westphalia is their top tilts at an angle.
Yes.
And that was to get around the patent that Sportsmobile had on the straight up and down pop-top.
Interesting.
And if you look above us, you know, why wouldn't you want the straight up and down pop-top, right? It opens the entire rig up. It's just bigger. So the clamshell style top became popular because of that Westphalia thing, but you know, not many people know why that clamshell style kind of originated, and it was literally to get around the patent that Sportsmobile had on the straight up and down pop top.
Right. I'm sure you have a lot of enthusiastic owners out there, and they're constantly sharing their journeys with you guys, their trips and where they take these things.
It's probably the hardest part about the job is getting all that. You know, it's all just inspirational stuff. You know, people will come in or post, you know, now with social media too, you see it on Instagram. I've got customers all over the world. A couple in Switzerland right now is on a posting spree, and we are just so jealous. But yeah, I mean, down here in Baja like we are now, all over the country, all over the world, and they post pictures. And it's funny, you know, people go, I never thought I would be taking pictures of my vehicle like it's their kid. And it's their van in front of a waterfall. It's their van, you know, at an amazing lake or river, at the beach. And people are very passionate about their vehicle. They fall in love with these things.
Yeah, and the whole van life trend in the last, 8 years, but really it really got hot during the pandemic.
Yeah, it ignited big time during the pandemic. People still wanted to travel, live their life, you know, without, you know, the airline access and everything else that was going on there. But it started right before that, honestly. The whole van life trend really picked up. You know, it was probably 2 or 3 years before the pandemic. And then, you know, when people were at home, stuck, not at the office, not doing anything, on Instagram, seeing this hashtag van life thing going on and seeing all it had to offer, it definitely just shot up.
Especially for people who, for whatever reason, were lucky enough to be able to work remotely. Suddenly, your office could be in Moab or Yosemite or the Alcan Highway.
Yeah, Starlink is also a game changer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're using it out here a little bit. And, it like you said, these things can be set as a mobile office. Like right now we're kind of in the motorhome stage, but I do some with desks and full workstations. I mean, you could do it here. And, yeah, it gives people the freedom to work remotely. And working remotely doesn't mean you have to be stuck at your home now because of Starlink, because of, you know, internet access, cell phone, all the new technology. Yeah, allows people to travel and live the dream while making that money to pay for the gas.
You got me thinking I need a field van as a mobile podcast and production studio. How awesome would that be?
Dude, I sold.
Yeah, I think it's probably out of my price range. What does a field van run?
So they range anywhere from kind of the mid 100s on up. The unit we're sitting in now is like our showpiece, showstopper. This one is about $285K. It's based on an Econoline 350 cutaway chassis. They don't make the old Econoline style van anymore. So we take the cutaway chassis that they make for ambulances, mainly U-Haul, where they have the front end of the van and then a big box on the back. And instead of just a box, we put a sexier body on it that looks like the old Econoline van, flares out a little bit, and it still gives you that off-road capability. Because we've been tackling some pretty decent trails out here with a lot of the off-road rigs that we have, and it hasn't been a challenge for this vehicle right here.
Yeah, when I first checked it out, I didn't notice that you've got a little bit of flare behind the B pillar, and so you have, what about another 3 inches of width, 5 inches of width?
Yeah, 5 inches exactly of interior space that we've created, and it makes a huge difference in a van of this size. And we also do our own 4x4 system with a Dynatrac Pro Rock 60 axle, Atlas transfer case, custom drive lines, Fox suspension. And so it's a fully built out custom 4x4. And it's not too big, right? It's still, we're with a bunch of Broncos and Jeeps and Land Cruisers, and we're able to tackle those tighter trails. We got a little desert pinstriping maybe going on, but the whole goal was to have this fully off-road capable vehicle, but still comfortable and big enough inside to full on live in or spend a week or a month or a weekend, whatever you're into.
Yeah, and it is a lot of money, but after all, look at the coin people drop on RVs. I mean, big RVs, motorhomes.
Oh yeah.
So.
And
I don't
a
know
lot
if
of those are actually pretty cheap. I look at it more like, you look at what an Escalade or something costs. Nowadays it's $130,000, or let alone the Porsches or your Ferraris or you can't do what we're doing in a vehicle like that. Sure, it's got the horsepower, but so does this, and it has the off-road capability. It's also got your fridge, your air conditioning, your furnace, water heater, shower. It's a full-on home in a badass, capable rig that can hang with the Jeeps and the Land Cruisers off-road.
Yeah, and you can park it in your driveway, and it doesn't look like a super tanker to your neighbors.
Yeah, that's the other key. It fits in a normal parking spot.
Yeah.
So we do have people that drive this as their everyday vehicle or maybe their second vehicle. And, it's definitely set up perfectly for adventures like we're on now, but imagine you have kids maybe at a soccer tournament, or you want to go tailgating, or even doing urban stuff. You want to visit some friends, and maybe they don't have a nice guest bedroom. Well, you pull right in their driveway, and you've got your home on wheels. And so it can serve so many purposes that, you wouldn't even think of when you see this thing. But, the use case and the amount of applications that this provides is pretty unbelievable.
By the way, tell me about the exterior finish on this thing. It almost looks like rhino lining.
It is, yeah. It's called Raptor Liner. And
okay.
I'm thankful I had that today, that tight trail we were on earlier. I just heard the scraping on the windows and what would have been the paint, but instead it's like a truck bed liner. So I don't get that desert pinstriping. I'm not worried about rust or scratches in the paint. This stuff it can wear these trees and wear these cacti. And, whatever you throw at it, the bugs, the rock chips, super durable. And, and it's a cool looking finish, at the same time.
What's the thickness on this stuff?
It's not that thick, it's less than a quarter inch, probably close to 1/8 of an inch thick on the spray. And it's a little textured, so some are thicker than others. But,
right.
It's super durable.
Do you spray it a little bit thicker on the front end?
No, our guy lays it up super evenly.
Okay.
When you're talking about a high 200K rig,
right.
It's got to look good.
Sure. I just thought
function.
maybe because the front end takes so much abuse, you maybe make it a little thicker there. But I guess you don't really need to because it's so durable.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you don't need to really up the thickness anywhere. The standard application It's like I said, truck bedliner. You know, people are throwing bricks and stuff in the back of their truck, and that's what this stuff's made for.
Right on. Where's your manufacturing facility?
Our main manufacturing is in Fresno, California. We have a 60,000 square foot facility there, and we do everything from fabrication to the 4-wheel drive conversion, pop tops. We hand sew our canvas in the pop top, our leather sofa that I'm sitting in, hand form the countertops, full cabinet shop. So everything's really done in-house, and then we have a sales and service center in Reno, Nevada.
Okay. And is there a waiting list? Is there a backlog?
Yes. It depends on the rig you're looking for. You know, it depends on how custom you're going. Like the one we're sitting in now, there was a delay in getting these chassis. Long story short, you know, we're about a 2.5 year waiting list on this rig that we're sitting in now. But most of what we do are Mercedes Sprinters, Ford Transit vans, Ram ProMasters, Chevy and GMC, the Chevy Express, the GMC Savannah, and generally those are about a 6-month, maybe 8-month process from order to delivery.
Okay, so a lot of chassis to choose from because people like what they like, right? They want a variety.
Yeah, our thing is there's no perfect van for everybody, but there is a perfect van for you.
Very good. Well, I think they're about to ring the dinner bell, Johnny, but thank you so much. And I'll have a link in the show notes for your website and your Instagram so people can check it out. But, yeah, great rig, and I would love to maybe take a nap in here tomorrow.
Yeah, you know, there's 2 beds, so yeah, we can do that. And yeah, and we'd welcome you to come visit our factory and do some more stuff with us. It's been a real joy hanging with you and the whole crew here on the Slow Baja Expedition.
Thank you, my friend. Johnny Feld from FIELDVAN. All right, guys. Well, we're here at La Poma on the Sea of Cortez, and it's a little beach resort. It's rudimentary, but that's part of the charm. And I'm sitting here with Michael Emery, our fearless leader from Slow Baja, as well as 2 Offroad Motorsports Hall of Famers, Curt LeDuc and Sal Fish. And so this is going to be kind of a special portion of this show this week. Michael, why don't you start by walking us through today? Because today was pretty interesting change of scenery.
Well, today started off and hey, Maurice, delighted you're here. Delighted to be on the Horsepower Heritage podcast with Slow Baja. And today started off in Catavina, in I think one of my favorite spots in the entire Baja Peninsula. I just love the cactus. I love the boulders. I love that campsite. And we've got Linda and Sergio from Rancho Santa Ynez that come over to that camp and make us a fabulous dinner, a carne asada, and it's just an amazing place to wake up. And then get back to the highway, a couple miles back to the highway, and then we're down the road a few miles, and we're having breakfast at Mrs. Velasco's cafe there. And that, I mean, the food's great. The service is definitely on the leisurely side, although we beat last year's time by a half hour with 10 more people. So I think they staffed up, which was amazing. And, you know, it just gives you time to check out that amazing junkyard in the backyard with the Parnelli Jones 1964 Cadillac ambulance. And I think people really enjoy that leisurely pace, that breakfast. Sal and I both ordered lobster machaca, which was just terrific. Anyway, Sal, take it away. I'm going to step out and let you...
First of all, Maurice, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to your audience. I'm not sure what your audience really is, so can you fill me in?
Car guys, educated car guys.
They are car guys?
Yeah, I mean, Michael says my podcast is the podcast for the thinking car guy, which is, I think it's a nice compliment. But yeah, I mean, you know, mostly, Sal, we cover classic, historic, you know, motorsport of all kinds.
And the people behind the cars and the people behind the motorsport.
Yeah, the people and stories behind the machines. And in fact, I did a whole sort of documentary episode on your old partner, Mickey Thompson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I cover a lot of different stuff, but it's so great to be here with you and to have spent so much time with you over the last few days and get to know you. I mean, what an opportunity.
Well, thank you. But, you know, the reason I asked that question is, you know, we're throwing out these terms of Baja and then La Poma, and I just want your listeners to know, if you can get on the internet, and if you're not that familiar with Baja, and you look at places like Catabina, you'll see where we are, and we are absolutely. You mentioned rudimentary, which is a very big word for off-roaders, let me tell you. But anyway, it's paradise. And, I've spent the last almost 60 years of my life down here marking courses. I used to be with Scherr International. And you mentioned Mickey Thompson. Mickey Thompson and I were partners from 1973 to about I don't remember when, but I was able to buy him out, and he ran into stadium racing, and I continued with Scherr until I sold Scherr International in 2012 to Mr. Roger Norman, and he's been doing a great job in promoting off-road racing and getting out in the technology situation. But I think, it's funny how Motorsports, and as you mentioned, prior to this, I was publisher of Hot Rod Magazine, so I had the opportunity to get involved in all forms of motorsports, and boat racing and stuff. But off-road racing, without a doubt, is a sport that anyone could get into at any level, from the standpoint from $2.5 million Scherr trophy tucks to stock Baja Bug or Baja Beetles type things.
Yeah, Volkswagens.
Yeah, exactly. And just have as much fun as the guy in a $2.5 million all-wheel drive Scherr trophy truck. So it's not NASCAR. We don't make left-hand turns and go around the thing. It's not Indy where they make left-hand turns and go home the next day. We come down here weeks, months in advance, pre-run the course, race it. The shortest race might be a 250-mile loop in just fabulous country. And I've always said I think I have the most beautiful race course in the world, because we start normally on the Pacific in a very beautiful seaside place called Ensenada. We usually go over to the Sea of Cortez to San Felipe, and then down to where we are right now and past it to Gonzaga Bay, back over to the Pacific, and we end up either in La Paz, Baja Sur, or Cabo San Lucas. And, we've seen the sun rise, the sun set in a race, and see it rise again sometimes, because some of these races we allow 72 hours. But point that I'm making is that the vehicles, as I said, I was involved in motorsports for a long time. I will match a Scherr Class 1 or a Scherr trophy truck to any, except for a Formula One. That's a totally different breed. It's, totally. But I'll tell you what, the technology and the driving skills that a Scherr racer, and we're talking about, I know, Slow Baja, that's why I'm going to get into this, Scherr racer has, is incredible, because they're going through on the pavement, and they don't get out and let the tires or jack the tires up when they're in the pavement. They take air out to get in the silt. We go through pine forests, dry lake beds, on the Pacific Ocean, and the Sea of Cortez. We don't close the roads. So it's a very unique thing. So I had the honor and the privilege to be invited by Michael, that is the owner and the originator of just an incredible company called Slow Baja. It was exactly the opposite of what I've been talking about. And I've spent 5 days now with a great group of people, including yourself, doing what I was doing for 50 years, but not seeing most of it because I was intense trying to get a course. This is, if you ever want to see the Baja and you want to be with a group of people, get a hold, because you'll see Baja at its best. Michael has done an incredible job with the people of Baja. He was talking about restaurants earlier, and I was amazed that he said the service might not have been up to par. That restaurant was as good as any you're going to go to, and the people who are cooking fresh food and serving to 40 people and cooking it right in front of you and getting it out from
it's a little slow.
Pancakes to.
But they beat their last year's time by a half hour.
Yeah,
so.
which is incredible.
Amazing.
But anyway, so.
Yeah, and they serve it with pride,
here.
right? You can see the pride in every plate. And Sal,
the love.
You were telling me, first of all, I should say Michael's motto for Slow Baja is "We go slow and we say hello," and that's
absolutely
that's the ethos, right? But Sal, in contrast to that, you were telling me last night, I think, that when you were at Score, it was go, 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 go. You didn't have a minute to yourself.
Well, no. I mean, first of all, I owned Score, and I would find the courses and try to change. I couldn't change the whole course every time. I put 3 races on a year in Baja: the Score Baja San Felipe 250, Score Baja 500, and the Score 1000, which is a granddaddy of all motorsports. So, dealing in a foreign country, I'm Sicilian. I'm not Hispanic. After 60 years, I do not speak their language. I taught them to speak English. So I came out here as a real, I'd say, cherry, from the standpoint I had to negotiate with. They have landowners, they're called ejidos. I'd have to negotiate with them to go through their land. I had a great relationship after a number of years with the government, from the president of Mexico to each governor or mayor. And there's 2 states in Baja. There's Baja, which goes from Tijuana to Guerrero Negro. Then there's Baja Sur, which goes from Guerrero Negro, down to the tip, which is Cabo San Lucas. So it was a very intense negotiation. It's not like going to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and here you've got crowds that come in through a toll gate. We charge no admission, obviously, but we've got literally hundreds of thousands of people lining these little villages in Baja and stuff like that. And I think that was a challenge for me, and it was great. I loved every minute of it. I never saw it as a job. It was incredible. And I'm looking at Michael here sitting and watched him, because I was kind of a lone wolf out here. I was doing these things. I'm looking how Michael has picked up on. It's about the people. We're guests in Baja's country, in Mexico's country. Yes, we're bringing tourism here, and we need to respect their land and their culture and everything else. And the short time that I shouldn't say short time, that Michael has been involved, that I could see, he's made 1 million friends from the smallest. And I think, I'll let him explain it, but I think his motto, what I've seen, is he's not as interested in filling, the Hilton Hotel. He's actually filling little taco stands and restaurants off the beaten path. And we slept, I had the privilege of sleeping in the field van, which father and son, Alan and Johnny.
Pretty comfy.
Yeah, provided, because for whatever reason, Michael felt that I couldn't sleep on the ground anymore, which on one hand I was a little offended that he thought I couldn't handle that anyway, that I must have turned into a wuss or something.
You're our honored guest after all. 50-year anniversary of
the 1975 Baja 1000.
Exactly.
And Sal is 86 now, and he said to me,
86.
Do not do anything for me.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'll be fine.
Well, he's still, obviously he can still handle himself. But, Sal, it seems to me your life couldn't have taken a more different turn. I mean, here you were wearing a suit and tie at Peterson Publishing, 2 martini lunches, right?
3.
The best accommodations wherever you went, whining and dining, and just kind of this, you were kind of leading the high life there at Hot Rod and Peterson. And then suddenly you're in this kind of desolate and remote environment and trying to make these races happen. It was obviously the right decision looking back, right?
Well, no, for me, no doubt about it, I'll tell you. But, it's amazing. Most of the people you talk to, they don't listen. And the times in 5 days, you've definitely listened to me when we were talking, because you said some things that you and I talked about it personally and everything. And all those things are true. I was living a very unique lifestyle with Peterson Publishing Company. And if you look back, if you go back to late 70s, Mr. Perlman actually came down here. Well, actually, to
late 60s.
In the I was going to say to the Eakins brothers, who were one of
Bud
the brothers.
And
Dave was
Dave,
the stunt rider for Steve McQueen, and they came down because Honda was going to introduce a motorcycle into the United States, and at that time no one would buy a foreign anything, and they decided here was this peninsula. Why don't we put someone on our bike and go down? And so that's how it actually. They were the first ones, the motorcycle guys, and through that at Perlman in 1967. Decided, hey, we could get some people together and go down and have a fun time. And that's what he did, and it lasted until about 1971 or 2, and he had some difficulty with the Mexican government, and they asked him to leave because I feel it was a political move, because one of the governor's sons said, hey, why are we letting a gringo do this? We'll do it. And that's what they did, and they put on a race, and it was a total disaster. It really was.
That was 1973, the Baja Sports Committee.
Yeah, and then in the meantime, I was still at Hot Rod, and Mickey was doing. And the governor invited Mickey and I to come down to Mexicali to talk about helping them as far as publicity. And Mickey was a race guy. I was in the editorial business with Hot Rod, and I could do some stories. And I went down with that intention. I went to Long Beach, got in Mickey's plane. We flew to Mexicali, had a great lunch with the Mexican dignitaries. And in the plane ride back, Mickey says, we don't need to help these guys. We're going to start a great organization. And he says, I want you to be the president, and it'll be bigger at that time. He said, it'll be bigger than NASCAR, And so I said, it took him a year. I said, there's no way. I'm not leaving. I got the greatest job in the world. But I had raced in the NORA races, so I'd already had when I say raced, I was really not a racer. I had an adventure in the race, and I fell in love with the peninsula and the people. And lo and behold, now here's this guy wanting me to run this company that's going to do this. And so it took him a year, and I did Lee Peterson, and the industry at that time was no industry. Why was anyone making something for off-road? But yet the introduction to pickup trucks and four-wheel drive vehicles was just, the world, and automotive things were exciting back in those days. And so I saw, God, there's a future here. So we really, I believe that Scherr International was responsible for really starting a whole off-road industry, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, of course, by the time you and Mickey got together, he had been racing for over 20 years. He started in rail dragsters. Some would say that he kind of built the first rail dragster and then did Land Speed and Bonneville and
La Carrera Panamericana.
La Carrera. He went to boats. He went to Indy with his own designs. So, and the thing about Mickey, of course, I never knew Mickey, but he seemed totally focused and pig-headed. Like you couldn't tell Mickey no.
You're exactly right. Let me tell you, I knew him very well, and he and his wife. In fact, Trudy was my secretary at Hot Rod, and he met her at a social event and stole him from me as the secretary. But no, Mickey was a very, I can't say enough positive, unusual things. He was a street fighter. He was a genius. I swear to God, he was but he wouldn't stay focused. He was so inventive and stuff that he'd say, I want to make a wheel, and he would get involved and start making a wheel, and then he would say, oh, well, maybe I should do carburetors or manifolds or tires or shocks, and he just incredible. And so it was very difficult for me to work under his regime, because I thought I was the president and I was the guy that should be running it. So that early parts were a little difficult, but Mickey and I stayed even after I purchased his half of Scherr. We always stayed, friends until the unfortunate situation that happened to him and Trudy. But what I was trying to, I don't know how far we got into this thing, but what I was trying to really emphasize here is that you could dream about being a Formula One driver. You could dream about being an Indy driver. You could bring NASCAR, and your dreams could come true, providing you either have $1 jillion and a sponsor that's going to back you, or you started racing when you got out of the womb of your mother, and someone saw some racing ability, like some talent we have, Robbie Gordon, I'll mention his name, that kid, he came off, I've always said, one of the exciting things about America and just a lot of children in the early days were conceived in the back seat of an automobile, okay?
True.
And they went from that, wheeled in a gurney with their mother, and were delivered. They were put on wheels again to go out of the delivery room, and then the first thing they got in was a carriage to push them around. So we were all grew up on wheels.
I never thought about it that way before, but you're right. And
go ahead.
And the other thing, Sal, so obviously you guys had the big idea and sort of the grand plan, but it takes a whole lot of support to make a race happen and work. And that's where I want to bring in Curt LeDuc here, because Curt, you sort of started as a mechanic down here, right?
I don't know.
Walker Evans hanging out with.
I mean, come on, Curt. You got
So
to
my
bringing
story
his-
is I grew up in Massachusetts.
Curt, get close to the mic.
Where is that, Curt?
I grew up in Massachusetts. So
Curt, wait, before you get
the guys where I lived in Massachusetts, where the people wore hats with three sides, one if by land,
The Pilgrims.
two if by sea. That was me, and I've been an
Ken
entrepreneur,
Winslow. Yeah.
entrepreneur my whole life, and I would wait for Peterson Publishing, Four Wheel and Off Road, or Four Wheeler Magazine. I'd wait and I'd read about these races in Baja or the Mint 400, and so I had a four-wheel drive shop and I built cars. My customers could never win a race, so I built my own, and started winning and learned the trade and built cars. But I came out and I met Sal and Walker in Zor, New York in the 78, 79. I won the four-wheel drive class. Walker won the two-wheel drive class. Met Sal. Walker invited me out to the 1,000 to come out when I went to La Paz. And I just fell in love with Baja. Like, why is this here? Why is this church here? Why is this village? Why, my pit was in La Purísima. And the vans broke down, Walker's vans. He broke down, but I fixed all the cars, got them all home, and he invited me back every year. And so finally, I had a four-wheel drive shop. I had a four-wheel parts store, and I just said, I figured out how to make money. I had 3 kids, a house, a great business, and I told my wife, we're going to move to California.
What'd she say?
Are you sure? I'm like, yeah. So I the next 1,000 to La Paz, everybody on Walker's team said, we're going to Cabo. You should come with us. So I don't know any better. Sure, I'll go. And at dinner one night with Walker and Phyllis and Dick Landfield, who owned Fairview Ford, a Ford team, Dave Ashley's sponsor, and he said, hey, we're building cars for the youngsters. We need fabricators. You want to... I was a mechanic. I had a, four-wheel drive shop. I said, yeah. I called my wife from Cabo. I said, hey, listen, I got a job offer. 2 ways we can do this. I can just come out here, get an apartment, work 6 months, figure it out, see if I want to stay, or just start putting everything in a box. And when I got home from Cabo, flew home, everything in my house was in a box.
Wow.
Less than 2 or 3 boxes, right?
But everything in my house is in a box.
This is beautiful because you and I were talking. Didn't you come out to Riverside?
After I met you, I did. I came to Riverside. I built a V8 car because I realized
wasn't that your first thing about deciding you needed to be in Los Angeles? In California.
It was in the steps of it.
Okay.
And I figured, they say, like John Wayne would say, how do you put, your boots on or your pants on? And John Wayne would say, one leg at a time, like everybody else. So I went to Riverside to race, and I realized we all put our shocks on one bolt at a time. And so I came to Riverside, some guy from back east, and led the race. Came down Thompson's Ridge. I had a cop come in Massachusetts. My car would go 107 4-wheel drive, straight axle.
What car was it?
It was a Jeep Cherokee, but it was a straight axle with a Scout frame. But I built those cars, and I came down Thompson's Ridge. I have a picture. The only tire on the ground is the left front tire, left rear.
What he's talking about, because he's throwing some names out that I don't think you're. Walker is.
Oh, I know
the
Walker
world
Evans,
famous
of course.
Well, you
Yeah,
do, but
yeah.
I do all of your listeners. I mean,
tell us.
world-class guy. Okay, and unfortunately, just passed away recently. But what Curt is saying is, when he says Thompson Ridge, we built a 2.5-mile track in the Riverside Raceway. There was a high bank.
Yep.
It was equal to Daytona,
And it had
that's
ice
what
plant on
ice plants on it, and then we built moguls, and this is off-road. We're going to show people what these guys are doing in the desert.
In Baja.
We're going to do it, show it for the stadium and everything.
Right.
So when he's talking about on Thompson's Ridge, this is an off-camber.
Mickey Thompson's Ridge.
Yeah.
Right.
It's off-camber.
With
He's-
hills.
with hills
bumps
and
and corners.
The spectators. Now, these are not spectators like you see at NASCAR. These are absolutely crazy, wild. It's Woodstock of off-road racing.
Right.
I mean, wild. He's up on the side, and he says only one wheel on the ground. The fans are leaning over
Over
this
the
little
fence.
crap fence,
Chain
trying
link.
to touch him, and he's getting pushed over, and he's trying to stay up on this ridge. I mean, I'm running this thing, and I'm the most excited guy in the world when I'd watch these guys. I couldn't believe what he was doing. But again, that's what I said. You really made a major decision because of Riverside.
Because
I
I realized I had the potential.
Yeah, you did.
And,
you, especially that first time out there, and look at you. What you've
and
done.
and won it. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a class 14
Yeah.
back in the day, and it was an unlimited 4-wheel drive class, and I was fortunate to be fast enough to win it. And so I tell people I would drive 1,000 miles from my house to Crandon, Wisconsin, race, win, set a track record, with a van, towing an open trailer, drive to Riverside, California, race, win, drive 3,000 miles home, nonstop, 2 of us in the van, no credit card, no cell phone, no AAA. And we did it for 4 years. And then I said, I'm moving. And my wife was ready. And my kids, my son Kyle followed along in my footsteps. My son Todd, my daughter has raced. But, SCORE as a sport changed my life. Back east, I won a lot of races. There was a bounty on my head. I raced SCORE Canada. I raced up and down the East Coast. But, I realized I was just a big fish in a little pond.
Right.
No fish jokes. But
But that's true. That's the way I felt.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, how do you become a millionaire in off-road racing? Start with $2 million.
Right.
So when he went back, I don't think I hate to say this, won enough money from my event at Riverside to pay for his gas bill. But yet he was hooked.
This is the same problem I have, Sal.
Sal,
Starting
I
with
just want you
$2 million
know,
to get to a $1 million.
I tell everybody I'm just 100 air. That's it. That's 100 air. And so Steve Menzie, racing short course against me and my kids. One time we had to borrow some parts from Steve, and he was very gracious and let us borrow some stuff. And he said to me, he's like, Curt, every time I see you, your hands are dirty. He's like,
Yeah.
how come your hands are dirty? And I said, Mr. Menzie, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but I'm not wealthy. And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot.
With his 2 choppers in the air and his, $2 million truck and chase vehicles.
But the fact that he, he respected me enough to realize he wanted to beat us when we had the best of our best. And, I always liked Steve. I've loved everybody's sport. I get to hang around with guys with yachts and helicopters and jets because of what this sport is. And
Yeah.
you can't do that anywhere else in the world.
I think the amazing thing about you, Curt, is you punch way, way, way above your weight. I think that's your whole ethos. Blue collar guy, everybody loves you, and I don't know if we can swear on your show.
I
I'm
mean,
gonna say
usually
the
I don't, but
F-bomb. I'm going to say F-bomb here. You F-bomb it, get it done. You get it done. And that's why I love having you on my trip. I mean, my blood pressure is way down on this trip to just know that a guy like you is at the back and he's got it handled. I don't have to worry about it. And on this trip, we've got 21 vehicles, so I can't even see back to you. We've got good radios, Rocky Talkies. It's amazing. And we've got race radios. And you've got it handled, and I don't have to worry about it. So while I'm up in the front, a little ducky, the legs are going like crazy under the water, but I look regal, trying to impress Sal. I've got Curt LeDuc throwing me bread, making sure it's good. It's great.
Well, Maurice, here you are. This isn't your first Slow Baja, right?
Oh no, I was here last year,
Yeah,
and the backstory is that some years ago I discovered Michael's podcast, and I thought, man, it would be great to have him on my show, and that's where it all
how we
started.
became brothers from another mother.
Exactly, and we've been amigos ever since. And so, yeah, it's my second trip. I just have to say that Michael pulls the coolest people on these trips. Like, there's not a... Sometimes, when you're in a group like this, there's maybe one or two that...
There might be one.
I don't know, man. I think... Are you talking about me? Wait a second.
I tell you, we've got... We've got some...
I think what you're getting to is it's a great group.
It's a great
And
group.
I feel very lucky about that.
Yeah. Well, you set the table, so...
That's right. Exactly right. Now, and then we're sitting here in the Sea of Cortez. It's 7 o'clock at night. It's probably 70 degrees. Looking at the turquoise blue sea. We're about ready to have a fish and steak dinner. This is cool.
You guys, we're going to have to wrap this up because I see that the ladies inside the restaurant are about to call dinner. So, Curt LeDuc, take us out. Tell my listeners what it's like to be in a trophy truck at 130 miles an hour off-road. Paint the picture.
The Riviera truck is the fastest car I ever drove with Mark Post that wanted to go 130 miles an hour. Down the start, onto the dump road, off to the power lines. The GPS in the video shows 130 miles an hour. It's the most fun you could have as an adult. I love driving that car. I started 7th in San Felipe. By the time I got to the Herps, who started first, I had gone 18 miles. I bumped the Herps at over 100 miles an hour, and they wouldn't pull over. And Jerry Herps is flying in the helicopter above us. I can see him. And so at the end, you got by K-135 by the highway, and we have to go left. And I backed off, and I told the guy riding with me, I said, don't worry about it. I got a good line on the left side. So we turn left, and we start heading north to Three Poles. And I heard later Jerry Herbst said to the race car, did you guys even pre-run? And it just made my day. And, the fastest I've ever gone at night is 120 miles an hour with the Vandewey truck at night down by Vizcaíno. It's you're out driving your lights. And you're trusting the guy watching the GPS because we're cheating death every mile of the race course. And you just hold your breath and you just don't let off the fuel. And it just makes you 20 years old. And I got to thank Sal and I got to thank Slow Baja because he's taken me places on this trip that I've never been to, including tonight, almost every night. And, and I'm going to show them some of the stuff that I do on my trips. And, you can't get enough Baja. Get off the damn couch, max out your credit card, and come to Baja.
All right, you guys. Well, it has been a distinct pleasure, and I'm so glad to have shared the trail with all of you this week. And let's eat.
Maurice, thank you, buddy. So fun to have a joint podcast with you.
Amen.
Sal, thank you.
Well, thank
Curt,
you very much.
Thank you. I can't tell you how great it feels to be at the front of the pack knowing that Curt LeDuc, he's got a guy. He can fix anything, and I've got Sal Fish. I've had to wear my sunglasses this entire trip because Sal is so smiling, and those pearly whites are blinding me. It's been a great week, no doubt about it.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank
really,
you.
It's a pleasure
Thank you.
spending
Thank
time
you.
with you. And I look forward to figuring out how you're going to make this podcast work.
It'll work. It'll work. That's all for this episode of Horsepower Heritage. Follow me over on Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more good stuff, and support the show with a donation at buymeacoffee.com/HP Heritage. And until next time, I'm Maurice Merrick. Thanks for listening.